The U.S. just launched its largest military operation in the Middle East in years. Denmark is deploying troops into Ukraine, and Russia isn't happy. Iran and Russia just signed a new military pact that could shift regional power dynamics. I am Mandatory Fun Day. This is Worldwide Wednesday. Here's everything you need to know in a couple minutes. Watch until the end because we'll be talking about the massive new Chinese military headquarters that may outsize the Pentagon. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The United States launched Operation Ruff Rider in March 2025, not to be confused with your mom's favorite adult toy, the Ruff Rider 3000. This marks the most extensive American military campaign in the Middle East since the end of Operation Inherent Resolve. This new operation comes in response to a growing number of attacks on commercial shipping lanes by Houthi rebels. And you know how we feel about touching our boats. Attacks that have disrupted vital maritime trade routes through the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Over a span of several weeks, U.S. forces have carried out airstrikes, Tomahawk missile launches from warships, and cyber operations targeting Houthi communication systems. The primary focus has been on dismantling drone launch sites, radar installations, and the advanced missile infrastructure supplied by Iran. This campaign shows that while America's strategic pivot may be toward the Indo-Pacific, the Middle East still demands attention. Operation Ruff Rider is a clear demonstration of force projection. I mean, we all hear the joke that could be made there, but I'm trying to keep this relatively clean, okay? Just a little. Ensuring maritime stability and protecting commercial freedom of navigation is paramount. However, this is also a message to Iran. Stop aiming your proxies or face direct consequences. The challenge now is whether this campaign achieves lasting deterrence or simply invites further retaliation from Iranian-aligned actors across the region. Operation Ruff Rider gets its namesake from the 1998 DMX song Ruff Rider Anthem, where philosopher and poet Earl Simmons is quoted saying, "Nothing we can't handle, break it up and dismantle." Did I say that white enough for you? Because I am quite white. Moving over to Denmark. This is a bold and precedent-setting move because they're deploying unarmed military personnel into western Ukraine. These troops won't be involved in direct combat, but will assist with frontline coordination, drone operations, and defensive planning, leveraging Ukraine's extensive battlefield experience. The Danish government has emphasized that the mission will be kept far from the active front lines and is purely instructional in nature. However, Russia has already issued a warning stating that any NATO presence inside Ukraine, regardless of purpose, could be considered a legitimate military target. This is a slow but steady normalization of NATO presence on the ground in Ukraine. While the mission is unarmed and defensive, the optics alone represent a tectonic shift. If Russia chooses to interpret this move as escalation, we could see new military posturing or even direct threats aimed not at just Ukraine, but at Denmark and NATO as a whole. Denmark's presence also opens the door for similar deployments by other NATO countries, further entrenching alliance influence without triggering open conflict. NATO definitely does not want to push their luck with wildcard Russia. We never know how they'll respond, just like that crazy ex. Really quick, if you like my videos and you want to support my channel further, head over to themandatoryfunday.com. We've got merchandise, we've got memberships. Members get 20% off all purchases forever and access to exclusive videos. In those videos, you'll hear me say things that I can't say here. Nothing crazy, I mean, not that crazy, but you know, it's different. And sometimes different is nice, you know? Did you like that? We also have a link on the website to get regulation compliant shirts that you can wear under your uniform. They are coyote brown. I don't know why we call it coyote brown. I've never seen a brown coyote. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Now we're going to talk about two people that are making business where they ain't got no business. Russia and Iran have signed a far-reaching military and trade cooperation agreement, signaling a new level of strategic alignment. The deal includes joint defense projects, and I'm not talking about a K-9 unit sniffing your bags at the airport. These include drone development, missile systems, and possibly even naval shipbuilding partnerships. Iran will allow Russia access to several key military ports, while Russia is expected to supply Tehran with advanced surveillance systems and electronic warfare platforms. Additionally, the new agreement outlines new economic cooperation meant to circumvent U.S. and EU sanctions, including alternative banking mechanisms, trade in local currencies, and expanded energy partnerships. This isn't just about weapons, it's about resilience. Both countries are learning how to operate outside the Western financial system while also enhancing each other's military capabilities. Iran's network of regional proxies from Lebanon to Yemen gives Russia indirect influence in multiple conflict zones. In return, Iran gains access to high-end Russian technology. This partnership tightens the noose around U.S. interest in both Europe and the Middle East and creates a secondary power axis capable of disrupting Western diplomatic initiatives. This partnership will be under a closer eye than the HOA president monitoring the length of your grass and if he can see your trash cans from the curb. Now, some people are probably going to laugh when I say high-end Russian equipment, okay? Make no mistake, Russia is highly effective at electronic warfare and cyber operations, specifically offensive cyber operations. They just wish that they were better at certain things, like not having their tanks destroyed. Now we're moving over to the part of the world with the pasta, Italy. And they are slowly ramping up their defense spending to meet NATO's spending target. But kind of, just sort of. Italy recently announced that it will meet NATO's defense spending target of 2% of GDP in 2025, but it's not due to a massive defense buildup. Instead, Italy has opted to reclassify military pensions, cybersecurity initiatives, and certain civilian technology R&D programs as defense spending. This move allows the country to technically meet alliance guidelines without significantly boosting troop readiness, or equipment modernization, or force projection. It's a politically convenient solution to avoid criticism from allies like the US, which have long called for greater European burden sharing as far as NATO defense spending goes. On the surface, this might seem like compliance, but it reveals deeper issues in NATO's cohesion. With threats growing on multiple fronts, NATO doesn't just need more spending, it needs smarter spending. Italy's approach may pass the numerical test, but it raises questions about whether member states are actually ready to match political rhetoric with real military investment. If others follow suit, NATO's deterrence posture could weaken in the long run, despite the illusion of progress. Thanks, Italy. Next time I'm over there, I'll make sure to visit the Leaning Tower of pissing us off. That being said, there is also something to be said. I shouldn't have said those two together. That being said, there's something to be said. It sounds confusing. Anyway, somebody should talk about the fact that, maybe Italy should have been getting credit for those things under their defense spending anyway. At the end of the day, I think any of those, you could make a solid argument for the fact that they would either directly or indirectly enhance defense. I can see it both ways, I guess is what I'm saying. I am a very middle-of-the-road kind of person, so that's what you're going to hear from me a lot. All right, now we're going to talk about how Sweden is coming in clutch in a very niche way. Since its accession to NATO in March of 2024, Sweden has emphasized strategic undersea warfare. Its Gotland-class submarines are world-renowned for their stealth, running on air-independent propulsion systems that allow them to operate silently for weeks, which is great because we wouldn't want to disturb Ariel and the other mermaids. These subs can navigate shallow, icy waters, making them uniquely suited for the Baltic Sea theater, where Russia maintains a growing naval presence. Sweden has already begun joint patrols and intelligence sharing with Norway and Finland to monitor Russian activity along the Arctic corridor. I do want to say that every single time I make a video, I generally mention the US or Russia in it, and no matter how I mention them or how often I mention them, somebody always tells me that I'm a plant for one or the other. Okay, listen, I am far too effective to be working for any world government. Trust me when I say that. All right, so Sweden's entrance into NATO isn't just symbolic, it's a force multiplier. The Baltic is now surrounded on all sides by NATO members, and Sweden's subs give the alliance unmatched eyes and ears beneath the surface. For Russia, this means greater detection risk and reduced freedom of maneuver. It also means that in any future conflict scenario, NATO would have the ability to strike Russian naval assets or monitor their movements from an invisible position. Not sure about you guys, but this Scandinavian Avengers sounds pretty cool. Finally, we're gonna go talk about China and what China is building. China is currently building what analysts believe could become the largest military command center on Earth. Dubbed the Beijing Military City, this sprawling complex sits roughly 20 miles outside of Beijing and features heavily fortified buildings, radar fields, and extensive underground bunkers. The facility includes decoy infrastructure to mislead satellites, cyber-hardened systems for communications, and underground chambers believed to be capable of surviving nuclear attacks. Once completed, it could surpass the Pentagon in both size and operational scope, serving as a central node for China's global military operations. This would include nuclear command, cyber warfare, and space defense. This base isn't designed for peacetime logistics, it's built for surviving and coordinating war on a global scale. The facility represents China's preparation for long-term strategic conflict, particularly in scenarios where command and control could be under sustained attack. It gives Beijing a credible backup command hub that could operate independently of space-based infrastructure. In short, China is preparing not just for deterrence, but for survivability in a world where high-end warfare is no longer hypothetical. The wildest thing about this project is it being funded by one of China's largest online retailers, Alibaba. High-end warfare does not have to mean high-end prices. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your support. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I did do a deep dive breakdown on this new Chinese military headquarters. Click the video that you see on the screen and give that a watch. I go over a ton of details and why it's significant in that video.